My entitled downstairs neighbor complains that my cat walking noises disturbs her. Okay, so sorry if this is a little long, but it's been going on for almost a year now, and I really need to vent about it. So last July, my boyfriend, 23M, and I, 24 non-binary, moved into a second-story apartment in a complex. All was fine until about 2 weeks in, I got a call from the office about a noise complaint from my downstairs neighbor, DN. I've never received a noise complaint in my life, so I'm kind of taken aback. The office manager at the time tells me that DN didn't give any information about what the noises she heard were, or what time they occurred, or anything. Whatever, I try to move on with my life. Until mid-September. I'm trying to dye my hair at about 10 p.m. Boyfriend goes to grab something for me from another room, moves my desk chair to the side, and suddenly bang bang bang. DN was banging a broomstick on her ceiling/my floor, to make us shut up. This obviously annoys us, but we let it go, finish up my hair, and go to bed. Except this continues for weeks. If we drop something, banging. Walk across the apartment, banging. Sit down too hard, banging. Desk chair rolls across the hardwood floor, banging. In early November, BF catches COVID and stays home for a few days. One night he gets up to get some NyQuil and accidentally drops the bottle. The next day, we were visited by 2 staff members from the office about another noise complaint about loud banging in the middle of the night. We deny this and inform them of the banging from DN. It's kind of dismissed, and we're told to get it on camera. At this point, since we're being banged at almost every day, I'm starting to have really bad mental health effects because of it. We're pretty much constantly whispering and walking on our tiptoes, and every loud noise nearly sends me into an anxiety attack. We're looking for reasons to not be home, and being home makes me depressed and anxious. I'm equating my emotions to a child in an abusive household. So about a week later, I write the complex an email where I specified multiple times we were banged at, emphasized my emotions and how I felt like we were being harassed, and that I didn't feel safe confronting DN in person myself. In fact, while I was writing the email, DN banged up at us over me dropping something. This email went unanswered for a week. During this week, my cat, 17F, fell out of a chair and DN banged up at us again. I had an anxiety attack, and BF got fed up with everything and went to confront DN. I made sure to tell him to record the conversation on his phone, and if things with her started to escalate, to just leave and come back upstairs. He came back frustrated. DN had basically whined to him that she had a migraine and could hear everything we're doing up there, and declined to have any real conversation with him, but agreed to stop banging up at us. A few days later, I physically went to the office, which is annoying since it's like half a mile uphill from my building, to bring up the issue since no one answered my email. I spoke to the same office workers from before and paraphrased what I'd written in my email and told them about what happened before with BF and DN. They offered to set up a meeting where they listened from DN's apartment to hear what noises were being made, because at this point we didn't know what exactly her noise complaints were about, as we'd still been given little to no information, while someone stays upstairs with us while we make normal life noises. I agreed to it, but later learned that DN denied. However, 2 weeks later, I get a call at like 10 a.m. that the office people would be by at 2 p.m. to do the noise inspection. They show up like an hour late, and instead of having us make noise and stuff like I expected, the property manager and an office worker come up, and I tell them about some things I think might be causing the noise, like creaky flooring and some doors sticking. They try to fix the doors, it doesn't really work, and then basically push aside my concerns about the harassment and tell us to just be considerate, mind the quiet hours from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m., and call the courtesy officer if there are any issues at night. I want to emphasize that we do not stomp, bang things around, have loud arguments, throw parties, drag furniture around, anything like that. All BF and I do is come home from work, watch TV or play video games, make dinner, and go to bed. My elderly cat does kind of stumble or fall to the ground instead of jumping, but she weighs like 7 pounds and she's not very active, and honestly I think she's probably loudest when she uses the litter box, but the only complaints we've received regarding noise from her have been about her jumping all over everything. We even bought a $50 rug to put under our desk chairs to try and muffle some of the noise from them. We tried to be quieter when the noise complaints came in. I feel like we've been considerate, but nothing's been good enough for DN. It genuinely felt like she wanted us to float around our apartment or something. I hoped at this point things would calm down. We stopped hearing banging, which was good. There were a few nights where I heard loud yelling from my next-door neighbors, which I recorded some of because I knew that if DN heard it, she'd attribute it to us. Then a few weeks later, we got an email from the property manager threatening us with a lease violation and a fine if we didn't stop with the noise. Obviously, we were angry, tired of being harassed and vilified for just existing in our apartment. So we responded to the property manager, expressing our displeasure, explaining that we still haven't really been given info on what exactly the noise is or when it's occurring. We also threatened legal action. The property manager, PM, changed her tune very fast. She told us that her email was a cursory one that she always sends with noise complaints, even though what she sent was very much personalized to our situation, and informed us that the noises reported were banging, moving furniture, and loud arguing. I tell her that I have video proof that the arguing was not us, and we decide to schedule a meeting to talk to PM about it the following week, and until then she won't issue us with any lease violations. During one night before this meeting, literally spent the evening being as quiet as possible. We ate leftovers, built a Lego set in bed together, watched TV with the volume so low we could only follow along with subtitles, and went to bed by 10 p.m. Neither of us got up during the night. The next day, the PM told us that DN had reported we were particularly loud the night before. Anyway, at the meeting with PM, I showed her the video I'd taken of my next-door neighbors arguing, brought up how it says in the lease that everyday noises from other apartments are expected and the leasing office cannot be expected to stop them from penetrating your apartment. I also reiterated how I felt like we were being harassed by DN and how my mental health had tanked because of it. We finished it off with how we needed this problem fixed, otherwise we expected to be let out of our lease with no fees attached for all the trouble caused to us. After hearing all this, PM confided that DN was making multiple reports about us a week and honestly seemed a little Karen-ish. She wondered briefly if DN was being homophobic/transphobic toward us, or if she was just so self-absorbed in herself that she wasn't thinking about the fact that we too are human beings with lives. PM said she would talk to the complex's courtesy officer because apparently he wasn't doing his job correctly. He told DN to call 911 on us about the noise instead of observing the noise claims from her apartment, and that she wouldn't be hitting us with a lease violation unless there was undeniable proof, i.e. the courtesy officer's agreement, that we were being unnecessarily loud. We went on our way, hoping everything would be fine. However, in February, I got new upstairs neighbors, and as they were moving in, the noise level rose. I didn't mind this, they were moving in, there was going to be noise. I just put in some earbuds and ignore it like a reasonable person, but DN somehow heard all of it and decided to start banging up at us again. Instead this time it was just one heavy thunk that literally shook my floor. It was like she'd thrown something heavy at the ceiling or something. I let it go and made a note of it in my head in case it continued after upstairs finished moving. And it did. Around the beginning of March, I sent an email to PM letting her know of all the times we've been banged at and what we were doing when it occurred. This email went unanswered. We went up to the leasing office to get a package a few days later and ran into PM where she explicitly told us that she'd ignored my email because she was so busy with all the construction going on in the complex, she just didn't have the energy for it. She also suggested that the bangs from DN might have actually been the door to the stairs that's next to my apartment falling shut, but I know it's not that because the door's quieter and doesn't shake my floor. So that was really annoying, but at this point we decided to move at the end our lease anyway, so whatever. There were a couple more banging incidents that I'd emailed about where PM gave very generic responses, until finally she informed us that DN would be moving soon. Since then there hasn't been any more banging, so I was assuming either DN gave up or PM finally did something to make her stop. Yet, a few days ago, I was checking the Google reviews for my complex, since they'd been emailing us asking us to leave good reviews, and I saw DN had left a nice long 1-star mentioning the situation with us. I'm gonna go ahead and quote it here because I think this is where the real entitlement comes in. Our neighbors above us have been a nightmare, and you can hear every step among slamming things on the floor, cat jumping off things all the time, furniture moving, and all throughout the day and night. It has been a mix of our neighbors being truly inconsiderate and the apartment not installing the correct subflooring in between the levels. When we complained to the complex several times every week for a while about the extreme level of noise for a while, the manager, PM's name, claimed she would take care of it, and it even got to a point where she told me their next violation would come with a charge. She backed out of that claim the next week and instead instructed me to start calling Courtesy Patrol, even though I had video proof like they asked me to obtain in order for them to follow through with violation, and said that if he lets them know noise level is extreme, that they would only then charge them with violation. It felt like they were questioning our integrity. I've never had to provide video proof to another complex when situations arose. Other complexes I've lived at in our city have always done their due diligence and at least contacted the other party when issues came up. When courtesy officer came out, he would usually be in a different part of our city and would take him a bit to get to the property. He would always go outside the neighbor's door and wouldn't listen to the noise from our apartment to truly understand how loud they were being. He was always very rude when I spoke to him also. I eventually gave up. A few things. 1. I do believe the part about the subflooring to be true. There are some super creaky parts on my floor, but that's not our fault, and we shouldn't be expected to change our home life to accommodate her comfort. Even though we tried to be quiet. And we spent money trying to dampen some of the noise. But sure, we're being truly inconsiderate. 2. I would love to see what video proof she has, but I bet it's just my next-door neighbors arguing since things didn't really ramp up until after that. And I proved that wasn't us. 3. The whole comment about feeling like the complex was questioning her integrity and that other complexes have always just taken her word for it, so she'd done this kind of thing before. Girl, if you don't want to have to hear your neighbors around you, buy a house. Or at least get an apartment on the top floor. Also, we have been in constant contact with the complex since December. I don't know why she's trying to imply that they haven't contacted us. 4. What do you mean the courtesy officer has been standing outside our door and listening in on us? I know that's not DN's fault, but holy shit, that feels so weird. 5. Love that she conveniently left out the part where she got away with banging up at us for months. So yeah, that's about where I stand now. At the time of writing this, she's still down there and we're moving at the end of next month. I'm praying that nothing else happens. Sorry for how long this is, I just really needed to get this out. If you made it this far, thanks for reading, I guess. Comments. One Redditor wrote, I would have replied to that 1-star review with everything they did and how, just about everything, wasn't your fault, and that she was being a massive Karen who needs to learn to cut the crab and stop trying to be a victim when they are far from being a victim. That just about everything could be attributed to other people in the building or people moving in or out. That you are the victim of an entitled Karen that was affecting your mental health and making you depressed and giving you a ton of anxiety because she would not stop banging something against the ceiling. That if anyone needed to be in trouble, it should have been her. OP replies, I really wish I could, but alas, on Google only the business owners can reply. And yeah, I really wish something had been done in regards to her behavior. BF thinks she should have been evicted or at least given a lease violation, but PM doesn't seem to want to do anything about it now that we're both moving, so I'm just letting it be. Our next apartment is going to be on the 1st floor. Another Redditor wrote, only the business owners can reply, doesn't mean that you can't write your own review about the situation. And while you could probably directly refer to her review in your own, you probably wouldn't need to. People reading these reviews aren't entirely stupid, they can follow the dots. You have your own complaints about the way the PM handled this issue, you've stated them here. Just put them in your own review. After all, while DN sounds like an entitled AH, and seems to make a habit of it, it sounds like the PM didn't handle the situation well by anyone's standards, yours or hers. She's posted her dissatisfaction. No reason you shouldn't do the same. If I were looking to move in, I'd be interested in reading both sides of this story. And whoever the property owner is should be, as well. Clearly, they seem to have a problem with their management service. They are losing 2 rent-paying tenants because of it. OP replies, maybe after I move out and everything's done here. I'm really bad with confrontation and naturally avoid things that create conflict. I really don't need the complex in my email trying to justify why they couldn't do anything, or DN at my door picking a fight since currently she knows where I live in the event that she sees it or whatever. At this point, I've kind of accepted that I'm not going to get any real justice for this and am ready to move on. Another Redditor suggested, the management isn't going to do anything but scapegoat or ignore you. You need to call their bluff. Note how there was a brief burst of concern from them, until the problems returned and you didn't sue. And make no mistake, this is management's problem. They should have long since moved you into another unit at no cost. 1. Get a lawyer to write a threatening letter. That will solve the issue 90% of the time, and it's not an expensive legal service. 2. Google how to fight bad landlords in your city and tenant rights in your city. You may be surprised by what resources are available and what your rights are as a renter. 3. Get a camera and set it to constantly record your living room with audio. Most dashcams record with night vision, are cheap, and use very large capacity SD cards. 4. File a complaint with your city government about landlord harassment. 5. Don't believe anything that either DN or management tell you. Continue to insist on videotaped proof. 6. Start making plans to move. At least do the research so that you can tell management if asked, yes, we will move so long as you give us written verification that there will be no penalties for leaving our lease early, pay for our moving expenses, and immediately release our deposit. You can even ask the attorney in step 1 to include that as an option, provided they think it's a good idea to make such a concession. So this is the end of this video. So what do you guys think? What would you have done if you guys had faced a similar situation with a Karen like this? Share your thoughts or suggestions down below in the comment section. And if you enjoyed this story, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. It's free for you guys and it really helps us to keep delivering you guys the videos continuously. You guys can also support us by checking out the links in the video description and the channel's about section. In the meantime, you can watch these videos. Goodbye.